Hi everyone, and welcome to your Week 8 presentation for your Math for the Medical Environment course. This week we're going to be covering Section 10. And Section 10 is going to be all about calculating dosages. And you're going to be doing units 44 through 49. So the first unit is on calculating oral dosage. And when we talk about an oral dosage, we're talking about anything that's taken by mouth. So that could be capsules, tablets, liquids, any of those types of things. It is obviously very important that you're very accurate when you're calculating drug doses. One of the big things that you need to make sure you're able to do is to interpret the label of the drug. So these are just some of the things that you're going to need to be able to look for on a drug label. We will look at an example of one here in just a moment. But you're going to be looking at things like the drug name, what's the strength, what's the unit of measure of that strength, who manufactures the drug, how much is in the actual container, any special instructions, the NDC code, which is very, very important, and things like that are some of the many things that you're going to be looking at. So it's also very important that you are looking at the dosage per unit. So how many doses, or what's the strength in every tablet, or what's the strength in every teaspoon, things like that. Again, some of the types of medications that we're going to be looking at: tablets, capsules, liquids, solutions, elixirs, suspensions, syrups. All of those things are very similar. It has to do, the difference between them has to do with what is being used as the vehicle to make them in liquid form. Is it an alcohol based? Is it water based? Things like that. So there's going to be two basic methods that they're going to introduce you to. One is the proportion method, and one is the formula method. The formula method, I personally think, is the easier one to use, but obviously, whatever you choose is fine as long as you're showing your work so I can figure out where you're getting your information. But I just wanted to make a couple of points about the formula method and show you how I use it. In your book, they talk about the formula method. They put the dose ordered over the dose available. They divide those two, and then they times it by the known dosage form to calculate the amount to give. And I use the same formula, but I call it something a little bit different. I word it a little bit differently, I guess you could say. So let's take a look at an example, and I'll show you what I do. Here's a practical problem. We've got a doctor ordering Klonopin 1 milligram for a patient with hypertension, which is high blood pressure, and we want to know how many tablets are given. So when you look, first of all, let's take a look at this label. A couple things I want to point out to you on the label. This is the brand name right here, Klonopin, and you can see it's a brand because it's got the registered trademark symbol right here. Underneath is the generic name for that particular medication. And it's telling you that every tablet contains a 0.5 milligram and that there's 100 tablets in this particular container. Then right up here is the NDC code. The first digits there are telling us about the company who manufactured this. The next set of digits tell us about the medication as far as what medication it is. And the last two digits tell us about the package size of that particular medication. So anything made by this company, which is Roche, is going to start with the same digits for their NDC. So that's really something to keep in the back of your mind. It also over here tells you a little bit about storing and dispensing, how it's supposed to be done. You're also going to see expirations and things like that on this side, if this was a legitimate label. One other thing to notice is this section. This C with the IV in the middle tells you this is a class 4 narcotic. And this tells you that it's prescription only. So a lot of important things on this particular label. Now, I said we're going to talk about the formula. The formula that they gave was worded a little bit differently. Here's how I word the formula, and it's right here in this section. I do order over stock times dosage unit. I just find that that's a little bit easier for students to remember rather than the words that the book uses. So order over stock times the dosage unit. So what did the doctor order? They ordered a 1 milligram dose. What do we have in stock? We have a 0.5 milligram dose. And how does that stock come? It comes per tablet. So I took that same formula and just set it up using the information from the label and what the doctor ordered and calculated it out to be 2 tablets. Remember, when you're putting this piece into the calculator, always do the top number, divide it by bottom number, hit your equals button. Now, as you go through the rest of the units, you're going to see that you're going to be calculating parenteral dosages. Parenteral dosages are doses that are going to be administered through an IV or any other method other than by mouth. One thing to keep in mind about parenteral doses is that they are very hard to reverse. So if we're putting a medication directly into a patient's vein, we can't easily reverse that as much as we can an oral medication. So it's even more important to calculate accurately. You're also going to be doing some calculations based on patient's weight, pediatric doses based on that, and things such as that. So as you're going through this week's material, if you come across anything that you have questions about, please make sure you reach out to me, and have a great week.